It's a betrayal of trust. Never trust any Nigerian politician, because most of them are bad examples of leadership. Why don't you ensure that let us build NNPP and ensure that in 2027 NNPP will win more states? NNPP will become the ruling party. Is there anything wrong there?
Thank you for coming this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and Oluwapo.
It's so good to have you again.
I'm delighted to be here this morning.
So, I mean, I could as well ask you, where should we start the conversation? Because there's so many things to talk about. But first, let's start from, let's go to River State.
The ball is in your court.
Yes, of course. Let's go to River State this time around. There seems to be an unrest that is not resting. There seems to be a political disturbance that is still not dropping the dust. Everything seems to be high. There seems to be conversations about the impeachment process. We've seen impeachment in Nigeria about 6 times. Yeah, a good number of them happened in 2006, one in 2005. The now Olubadan, Rashidi Ladoja, was the then impeached governor in your state. There's been that conversation as to gross misconduct of the case that was alleged against the present incumbent governor of the state, and that's Siminalayi Fubara. But what do you make of all of this? It seems Pandef has said, please, let's look for a way to have a peace panel over this. But it's like lawmakers are saying, no, we are not having this.
There is one thing you must understand. There is a political conflict and disagreement between a supposed godfather and an estranged godson. Who am I referring to? I'm referring to Barrister Nyesom Wike, the proclaimed godfather. Then the estranged godson is no other person than His Excellency Siminalayi Fubara, the executive governor of Rivers State. We all knew what happened. That at the end of the day, a state of emergency was being declared, and it became a subject of controversy in Nigeria, that it is unconstitutional. But here now, there is no peace in sight. Why? Because pro-Wike lawmakers are all bent in ensuring that Fubara is being impeached. But there is one thing the executive president said. The executive president have actually declared Siminalayi Fubara as the leader of APC in Rivers State. And now, when you look at Wike himself, Wike want to control the party machinery in PDP and also in APC. Then the national leaders in APC are saying, no, you are in PDP. It's not possible for you to be in PDP and also control the party structure of APC in Rivers State. So there is an issue on ground. And now when you look at it now, you see the finger of conspiracy. What Wike is trying to plan is this. They will he's planning to impeach Fubara, the governor. He's planning to impeach the deputy governor. Then the speaker will now be what? Installed as the governor of the state. Is that not unconstitutional? There is a problem on ground. If Wike is not very careful, the good people of Rivers State will revolt against pro-Wike lawmakers. The people have the right to defend their governor,
So where do you
to
stand?
protect their governor.
Where do you stand, Ofino?
For now, there is constitutional violations on the part of the lawmaker.
What about the governor?
The governor may have committed what we call constitutional violation. If there is a violation of the constitution, there is nothing wrong about impeachment. But you cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy. There is what we call sting operation in this country. There is what we call state-sponsored violence in this country. So you cannot, it's just like the issue of Malamina. The issue of, look at it now. They said he is sponsoring terrorism in this country. The DSS went to his house. They found some amount of some numbers of ammunition in his house. You cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy on that issue.
But let me make it straight. Do you think the gross misconduct charges could have been right?
When you look at what actually happened, we had a divided house in Rivers State. So the governor had what we call minority support from the legislative arm of government, just 4 4 members of the House of...
That pulled out of the impeachment process.
No, not those that pulled out, those that were actually supporting him. Then the rest belonged to Wike then. So they asked the governor to present the budget, the 2025 budget. He presented the budget. So it was only 4 members of the House of State Assembly that approved that budget as against the majority that was against the governor, because they were not part of the governor. They were working with Wike. So they had 2 state speakers. So there was a problem on ground. So if the one the governor recognized, they were just 4. They were also having their own speaker. The other ones, they also had their own speaker too. So there was a lot of political controversy then. So at the end of the day, the governor had no choice. The 4 legislative members that supported it, they endorsed that budget. At the end of the day, when there was now the issue of impeachment, so IBAS have no choice than to re-present the budget again.
That was the administrator that was appointed by the president. Yes. Now, let's take our focus away from there very quickly, but not to go too far, because we have to talk about Malami. Malami is also in the know as to the Nigerian saga. So people are asking questions, where does this lead to? Someone who has been in that position for the country, Attorney General of the Federation, being caught in this despicable act, especially as alleged, is not something we want to talk about. It's not something we should have at that level. But what do you make of this? I think you mentioned that there are conspiracies in the state, and then states...
you cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy, conspiracy theory.
But let me get your thoughts on Malami.
We look at Malami. Malami has always been one of the most trusted allies of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. He was so powerful in the presidency as the Attorney General of the Federation. Very powerful. But for now, if you look at most members, those who belong to Buhari's bloc, they are not even supporting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Though they are still in APC. But when you read their body language, most of them are not even supporting this government. So you cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy. And you can see what people are saying is because he refused to support this government. That is why he's been persecuted politically. I wouldn't know if he's actually sponsoring terrorism in this country. Terrorism is a criminal act. Terrorism sponsors, no, they are also criminals too. But here now, he was arrested, detained. After detention, DSS now came again to tell the world that they found some numbers of ammunition. Who says the DSS themselves? We are not the one who put those arms. You cannot rule out the finger of conspiracy. Is it not Nigeria?
But that's why there's going to be a court process after this. It's not just going to be...
No, what about the issue of conspiracy on the part of the ruling government? Just to give a dog a bad name. I'm talking about the moral aspect.
So you think this is a
Do you know that the government can organize a sting operation against Ofino? For speaking truth to power.
But that's what you think.
Yes, the government can do it.
They are targeting.
Somebody can come and lie against my person that I made an attempt to rape her. And which I never did. Never trust any Nigerian government. That's the issue on ground. He's been persecuted politically based on certain quarters. If actually he was actually sponsoring terrorism, what stops the government? Indicting him.
That's what they are doing now.
No, indicting him. Not this year. Indicting him when he left office.
But this was when... Maybe investigation sometimes might take a process of time to be accomplished, right? Maybe that's why they've not been able to apprehend him for that.
There is one thing I'm also discovered about Malami too. The way he was able to withdraw 600 billion naira belonging to the Niger Delta Development Commission to prosecute a case. 600 billion. That is unconstitutional. I know he has a case to answer before the EFCC. I know. But now look at the dimension. Now, who actually knows whether he's sponsoring terrorism? We don't know. But if it's true that he's actually one of the terrorist financiers, there is nothing wrong if he's being rearrested again. But what I'm saying is this. The issue of conspiracy theory. Nigerian government, politicians, They can do and undo. That was what they were doing in the First Republic during the days of Chief Jeremiah Oyeniyi, Obafemi Awolowo. Politicians at that time.
So let's talk politics now. Since you've mentioned politics, let's go to Kano State. Some are saying that just one thing, just one key that the APC would need is Kano because of the numbers. And we know politics is a game of numbers. So if they have the numbers, if they have Abba Kabir Yusuf, because there's been a meeting between him and the president, and there's also a meeting that's expected to come up between Kwakwanso and Rabi Kwakwanso and the president as well. So there's been that claim that eventually NNPP will no longer be a thing in Kano State. APC would be the ruling power in Kano State. But what do you make of all of this in all sincerity?
You know, it's just rather sad and unfortunate that we have having politicians that lack ideology and personal philosophy and principles. Why the defection? What we are having presently in Nigeria is what we call the defection tsunami, or what I call defection syndrome. It does not speak well of a country adjudged to be the giant of Africa. This is not how to promote democracy. Most of them are being coerced, according to rumor being circulated, that most of them are being coerced to join APC. Most of them are being threatened by EFCC. They have no choice to join the APC.
But a good number of them have come out to say this present administration of Tinubu is making sense. The renewed hope agenda is making sense, and they think they should align with the center because of the progress that the nation is making.
If you are trying to align with the center, does not mean that you must defect from your own political party.
How do you do that?
That is injustice.
But how do you do that without...
In America, do we have a one-party state in America? No! The Republicans are there, they have their own state, and things are working well. We have to build a strong institution. Whether you are a Democrat or you are a Republican, what happens is this: the American interest must be protected. That's a fact. It's not necessary you must align with the center. If you are in the party A is ruling at the center, party B is ruling at the state, you must come up with your own ideology too, to ensure that you also develop the state and see your state as a model, so that one day the electorate might also say, let us give party B a trial in general election. That is how it's being done. But most of them today, personal aggrandizement, self-aggrandizement, and this issue of entitlement mentality.
But you also know for one now that politics is all about winning. Anybody that is in politics wants to win elections, win an appointment, whatever you win. It's just a win game for everybody. So
personal aggrandizement.
Perhaps we can say that there's a saying, popular saying, that if you can't beat them, you join them. But what do you think Abba Kabir Yusuf should have done? Because in my own opinion, I was asking the question that where is the PDP? Where is the Labour Party? Where is every other person that should contend for these states, being a state that is very important?
What they would have done is this: how do we ensure that NNPP wins the next election at the presidential level? That is what they would have done.
Perhaps they don't have that much strength to do that.
You know, Kaduna, this man, People Redemption Party, won Kaduna in 1979. Although at the end of the day, the government was subsequently impeached as a result of conspiracy on the part of MPN. The People's Redemption Party won Kaduna State then. We have to be honest to ourselves. What these governors are doing is an injustice to the electorate that voted them into power. It's an injustice to the party that decided to nominate them as their flag bearer. It's a betrayal of trust. Never trust any Nigerian politician, because most of them are bad examples of leadership. Why don't you ensure that let us build NNPP and ensure that in 2027 NNPP will win more states? NNPP will become the ruling party. Is there anything wrong there? There is no excuse that Kabiru, the Governor Kabiru can give, yes. Yusuf Kabiru can give to me, that someone like me can accept. Because those are frivolous excuses. It's bad and sad. Look at the defection, the rate of defection in Nigeria from PDP to APC. Who says they will not also return back to their fold?
Okay, so let's stretch it. Let's extend the legs of this conversation a bit by going into Davos, the World Economic Forum, that is Congress, that is also conference that is holding as we speak. But not to forget to mention that Abba Kabir Yusuf as of now has not defected, and the party came out to say, the NNPP chairman and the publicity secretary came out to say that there's no news of that yet, it's just rumor, but there are speculations across borders and quarters. But now let's talk about Edun, Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, said that Nigeria is advancing their interest in Davos, and by that it means that the federal government will rely less on debts and focus on driving investment. They said they don't want to borrow again. Meanwhile, another story came out to say there's a borrowing that has been increased to 900 billion, a bond as well. But what do you make of all of this? Because that's okay, let me draw the background to this. This was one of the claims of Omoyele Sowore one time when the president went to Brazil and said there's no corruption in Nigeria, and then Omoyele Sowore was furious, he was exasperated, and then he said, you cannot say that because that is not the reality. So he called the president a derogatory name that I would not like to mention, but that's exactly the case in that sense. So let's talk about this now. Does it seem like the Nigerian government is very proactive in telling a story in the outside world that is not reflecting the reality of the Nigerian state?
We have government that lie under oath. You can't expect the president to wash his dirty linen outside.
But does he have to lie?
No, there is what we call politics. The image of the country is at stake and very germane and paramount. The reputation of the country. There is one thing I keep saying over and over again, that the only way to fight corruption should start from the president himself. That's the only way. If the president is not corrupt, his cabinet minister will never be corrupt. Governors will never be corrupt. Because they see the president as what? As a father figure. That's one. Talk is cheap. There is an economic fallacy that has become a populist ideal, that no economy can survive without borrowing. And I keep saying it over and over again. That is an economic word. Fallacy. It's a fallacy. All things being equal, a country can choose not to borrow and depend on what? On their limited resources. And they try to utilize that resources optimally without even borrowing. And at the end of the day, they can decide to lend to other nations. So that is why I said this theory that no economy can survive without borrowing is one of the economic fallacy propounded by the capitalists themselves. Wale Edun, the coordinating minister of the economy, I don't know the school of thought where he belongs to when it comes to issue of economic theory, because we have different school of thought in economic theory. So I wouldn't know the school of thought where he belongs to. Now, Nigeria for now is a loan-dependent economy. When we are talking about fiscal policy of government, the fiscal policy of government is usually dependent on what? On loan. Sourcing for loan to fund your national budget year in, year out.
But let's talk about that.
But is it supposed to be like that?
Okay, yes, that's the point. Let's talk about that. So if we talk about the fact that loan has to, is for some like you mentioned, so maybe a school of thought believes like you should have loan to improve the nation. But others have also questioned what that loan is for. So if you borrow loan and then some people are siphoning the fund, I mean, it makes no sense. It's almost as bad as not having the loan in the first place.
That is criminality.
So let's talk about that issue. There was one issue as well, because I want us to put this together. Dear Zani, Alice Maduke, she's facing a trial of about $100,000, okay, 100,000 euros, bribery case, which is supposed to begin in London to last for 12 weeks. That's another story. But this is not just about Alison Diezani. It's talking about every other political leader in the country. There seems to be a narrative. There seems to be that almost every politician in the country that's once served or that is still serving has a cockroach in his cupboard. And it seems like the same narrative here and time again. We've seen this before. We are seeing this again. It seems like it's an unending conversation. But why do you think this is?
Some of them borrow in the name of executing capital projects. Half of the money goes into private hands because we have a weak judiciary. We have a weak judiciary. People go to the judiciary to procure judgment. Judgment is given. Justice is given to what? to the highest bidder. There is no patriotism in this country. That's where the problem lies. The issue of plea bargaining is also there. If I stole 1 billion naira and I decide to return 500 million naira, the remaining 500 million goes back to me. Then the lawyer and the judges, I give them 200 million. What a country and what a government. So there is a problem on ground. Serious problem on ground. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Sometimes my heart bleeds. This money that is supposed to be meant for the welfare of each and every one of us is being siphoned by certain few, and there is no consequence. And this issue of duplication of contract is also a problem. And of inflation of what? Of contract. Let's assume the cost of 1 kilometer of road is 1 million naira. And government now awards that road for 10 million naira. You know what has happened? Government have defrauded the people 9 million naira. And government has also denied and deprived the people 9 kilometer additional roads. The money that was supposed to be meant to build schools are being diverted into private hands. The money that was supposed to be meant to build more hospitals, to fund our hospitals, is being diverted into private hands. And the politicians know at the end of the day, if they are being arrested, there is the issue of what? Plea bargaining. We now celebrate them.
Okay, so help me outline let's do a bit of solutions journalism now. What is the way forward to curb these excesses?
Capital punishment.
For offenders?
For those who stole our money. That's the only way. Look at China. It's a one-party state. I'm not in support of one-party state. There is nothing wrong if you choose to be a communist economy. But they felt that the only way to curb corruption in China is for them to introduce what? Capital punishment. It's there. Capital punishment. A criminal is a criminal. Why should you grant amnesty to a criminal? Those who forge our money with the pen, they are more even deadly than armed robbers. Those who use the pen to steal public funds are more dangerous than armed robbers. Do you know what it means? The money that was supposed to be used to execute capital project has been diverted. The money that was supposed to be used to build hospitals in order to treat those of us who are sick, in order to save our lives, some people have diverted it. And that shows that there will be more death and there will be more ailment.
So in one word, you're calling for capital punishment for offenders?
Yes! There should be capital punishment. And if there is no capital punishment, not necessarily death. Life jail! Then their families will be banned for life.
From politics?
From politics! If your brother is doing what is bad, you have every right to caution him. If your sister is doing what is bad, that is Africa for you. The extended family. Your cousin is your cousin. Your nephew is your nephew. People will make reference. Look at his cousin. His cousin is a criminal. So you should ban such family for life from joining politics.
I hope that does not infringe on their human rights to, to freedom of expression, freedom of participation, and freedom of maybe.
When their own cousin, we are stealing our funds. Where were they?
They were not the ones that stole the funds.
No, they are cousins. We are stealing public funds. They didn't say anything. They all enjoyed it.
So they are complicit to.
Yes, they are complicit. Nobody wants to identify with a criminal in Africa. When a lady discovers that a guy is a criminal and the guy proposing to him, the lady will never accept such proposal in Africa.
Now,
that's our mentality.
Let's spread the tentacles much further now to see the PDP is in the news. Maybe some would say, Eureka. It's an Eureka moment for them after a long hiatus and a lot of intricacies, but let's not go there. The case now is that PDP presidential candidate is open to all Southerners, including Jonathan. That's coming from Turaki. That's the NWC, that's the National Working Committee, visits Namadi Sambo, and then the Turaki made this statement. Also, we know he's a factional leader as well in the party. He said everything is open, even for Jonathan. What do you make of this?
Turaki is just making a statement based on his own observation. But let me be frank and sincere with you. Turaki is not being recognized by INEC. There is a problem on ground. Turaki emerged from Seyi Makide's caucus convention that was held in Ibadan. For now, INEC does not recognize that leadership. So Turaki is not in the best position to make such announcements.
So you think if
because he's occupying an illegal office based on INEC verdict.
If I may ask, do you think his statement is invalid as a result of that?
Is invalid.
So do you think Jonathan, let's talk about what he said. Let's speak to that issue. Do you think him proposing Jonathan to be a credible option for the party is even a wrong statement to have been made?
I wouldn't say it's a wrong statement. Why is Jonathan coming back?
That means you don't believe he should come back.
He shouldn't come back. Why is he coming back to do what?
But Turaki wants him back.
You were in power. You became helpless. Do you know that in the rumor mill, they even said Jonathan was a drunk? I keep saying it over and over again. That we need a radical leader. Not a weak leader. Not a fearful leader. Not a drunk. That will turn around Nigeria for good. Look at Mahatma Gandhi. Do you know that Aristotle made a statement? He said there is enough for everyone's need, but there isn't enough for everyone's greed. That's a philosophical statement. We have to be honest. What is he coming back to do in Aso Rock? It should stay clear. Let us be honest to ourselves. During Jonathan's regime, there was high-level corruption. And listen, Deviani, Madwekwe, the Minister of Petroleum Resources, stole our Commonwealth. Did he say anything about it? We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Coming to do what?
So
we don't need him.
You are questioning his competence.
Yes, he's not competent. Because if he was a strong leader, Jonathan would not have lost that election. Let me give you an example. Jonathan greed caused PDP their defeat in 2015. When you saw the finger on the wall, that the North, we are not happy. The power is being retained in the South. The North, we are agitating. There must be a power shift. If Jonathan was someone that loved the PDP, he will have decided to say, now, let me float a candidate from the North. Assuming Jonathan has stepped down for a candidate from the North, Buhari will never have won that election. Because Buhari made a statement. That statement alone was a treason. He said the blood of bull and babu will flow. If PDP rigged the election in 2011, he said it, Buhari said it. He said, I'm going to render this government ungovernable. He told Jonathan. That word enough was a treasonable felony. Is that not an aberration? At the end of the day, somebody that threatened your own government won the election in 2015 and ruled for 8 years. So Jonathan should stay clear. That's my own personal submission.
All right.
Because if Jonathan was wise, was a wise politician, when people like Chief Olusegun Obasanjo were agitating that let us return power back to the south, to the north. The north were agitating that they want power back, and he has heeded that advice. And Jonathan had decided, now I've already ruled for 6 years.
All right.
I love the party. I don't want the party to lose. Let me shift my own position and allow the North in PDP. They will have defeated Buhari hands down.
All right.
That is one point political. I'm talking my own statement political. But this issue of entitlement mentality, Chief Aneni was one of those people that were supporting Jonathan. It's not easy for you to defeat a sitting president. The power of incumbency. He lost that election despite the power of incumbency.
All right. You've made your point, Saofino, but just in 1 second now, there's a story that is also making the rounds that Constitution review is about to become a conversation at the Senate level. The Senate says we will begin clause by clause consideration by January 27. That's Senate saying state police, special seats for women are their priorities. But, one word about this. Do you think it's high time we re-strategized? Do you think it's high time we now restructure or we reconstruct the constitution of the Nigeria?
There's one thing we must know. Nigeria has been a signatory to the International Convention in Beijing. 35% affirmative action for women. Women have the right to even govern Nigeria.
But do you think a constitutional review is what is next now?
Apart from the constitutional review, the political will, are the men willing to nominate a woman. Women's representation.
We'll probably have another time to
During
have
the
this
days of
conversation.
Jonathan, at least the government was fair. Almost 35% of the ministerial appointment was given to the women.
I just want to know briefly if you think constitutional review is what is next for the priority, or what they should do.
Constitutional review is necessary. We need a new constitution in Nigeria. We need a new electoral reform too in Nigeria.
All right. You've made valid points today. Thank you very much for joining us on this Salvino Boseliu Ignatius. This is my public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll now switch focus to some other conversations to talk about the case that is currently ongoing as well. On the big story, something quite interesting, something of interest to many Nigerians. But that will be shortly after this break. Join us again.